Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another podcast episode. And I have a special guest, or I guess we're each other's special guests. So someone's here with me today.
Hello, it's Nancy.
So we do these dual episodes sometimes when we have something that's on our hearts, but it's very value added and I would say current with both of our listening bases, whether you listen to the Entrepreneur Rescue Mission or Networking and Marketing Made Simple. We both have very highly engaged audiences of entrepreneurs. And what we're going to be talking about today are the phases of entrepreneurship, because there's a lot of people that feel like they're alone in their journeys, that they're the only ones struggling. They're the only ones that aren't having things work. They're the only ones that aren't succeeding right now. And there are absolutely ebbs and flows of the phases and stages of entrepreneurship. And we want you just to realize after listening to this episode that you're, number one, not alone. And number two, exactly where you need to be at this exact time. So Nancy, let's dive into the phases of entrepreneurship.
Yes. All right. Well, there's going to be three phases that we're going to talk about today. And for everyone listening, I can't tell you how often, right, I bring this up to the entrepreneurs and the people that I work with, because a lot of people start to feel like, they're stuck in a rut, or they feel like, oh my gosh, this is so uncomfortable, or they're going through, like Scott said, right, the ebbs and the flows of the natural process that happens when we grow a business. And so I refer to these phases very often. So what we're going to do today, right, we're going to start with the first phase, which is the startup stage. And we're going to talk through a couple characteristics of that stage, some common hurdles, and obviously some milestones, right? We want to give you guys some goalposts, some things to really strive to achieve so that you can break into the next stage, right? And the new challenges that come with the next stage. So the first stage, which we call the startup stage, is kind of a beautiful stage, right? It's that stage where you get really excited. You're all ready to start your business. You're kind of stepping into the unknown. You're super inspired, right? You're fired up because you've got this amazing idea. And the focus is really getting that business out there into the world and getting the foundations kind of built so that you can actually press play, right? The scary things that happen though, right, is you are the person most often, right? You are the one who is the founder, the CEO, the operations, the HR. You're wearing all the hats, okay? So one of the challenges in this stages that I often see is that people get very overwhelmed at the learning curve and at all the things that they have to learn to be successful in their business, okay? We hear all the time where people are like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I need to hire 10 team members right at the gate and I need to do this before they're making any money. But really in this phase, it can be incredibly valuable and incredibly, really set you up for success if you take the time to actually learn, right, some of the basic foundational things in your business. So number one, you are able to break into the next phases and eventually you can hire a team member and better manage and set expectations for that team member. So this is a huge, huge stage. And of course, the one thing that we also see very often, not just, with the overwhelm and the learning curve, is the lack of clarity. Okay. All the time, right? We hear things like, oh, I'm not really sure how to communicate what it is that I do, or I'm not really sure about my messaging, or I want to start five things all at once, right? Scott, we hear that all the time where I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I want to start 10 different businesses and I also want to help everybody, right? So in this stage, you really have to realize that, shiny object syndrome, right? Looking all around and wanting all the things, and really, getting distracted by all kinds of different opportunities, or even, making connections with people and getting fired up and losing sight on your goal is super incredibly common. Okay. And because we are entrepreneurs, right? Humans in general are creative. I say it all the time. We're creative beings, but entrepreneurs are like on a whole nother level, right? Our brains are working differently. We're thinking things, sometimes we go a mile a minute. We're problem solvers. And we do have a lot of potential. But during this phase, I want you guys to think about staying focused. Okay. When that little, idea takes flight and you want to like do five different things, reel it in. Okay. Whatever you got to do. I mean, I have a little post-it note, sometimes that I keep on my computer. Stay focused, right? Stay on track, work towards your goals, and make sure that you walk through what we call the valley of focus, right? It's like stay in your lane. Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things where when you're in the beginning stages of any entrepreneurial endeavor, whether you're launching a course or you're starting a coaching program, the natural progression is to unmarry the monotony, because in the very beginning it's a lot of repetition. It's a lot of the same things day in, day out, whether it's posting your content or talking about similar content buckets or themes. And the natural thing is, as human beings, we want to get back to that feeling of being excited when we first started this endeavor. So it's like, okay, let me try to launch something else, or let me try a different strategy, or let me try, a different method to whatever I'm doing. And to Nancy's point, the valley of focus is such an important place to be. And we're still there, because there are a lot of times where we want to divert our attention to other things, whether it's creating another course or launching a new workshop or launching a new program. And we have to actually slow our own roles and say, no, we have 4 big things going on that we consistently throw kindling on that fire to keep those things burning bright. And we then kind of have to take a step back and say, okay, these things are still a focus, they're still a necessity, and we're not ready for the next phase yet. So this valley of focus that happens in phase number 1, it will reappear in multiple phases in entrepreneurship. It won't just be visible in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. It's always going to be there, because no matter how much you grow in scale, when you get to that next phase or that next level, it's still going to require the same focus as the phase prior or the phase after. So really acknowledging that you do have to marry the monotony of what you're doing with your business, no matter what that business looks like, whether it's a coaching or a service or a program or a course. And it's literally staying in that valley of focus, blocking out all the things that would divert your energy and attention somewhere else, and remember why you started what you're doing in the first place.
Absolutely. So, some characteristics of this startup stage, right? So, I want you guys to kind of think as you're listening to this episode where you might fall a little bit more into. So, at this stage, your revenue is usually 0 to maybe 1,000. Okay. We're babies, we're working our way up. And revenue streams, okay, if you guys are coaches, course creators, consultants, people who are getting started in that capacity, your revenue streams might include one-on-one coaching, some services that you offer, and maybe some affiliate marketing, right? Where you're actually sharing some products and earning money that way. This is a time of experimentation as well. So yes, we say focus, 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 but we also need to make sure that we are testing out what is working and what's not working. So at this stage, there aren't 100% guaranteed answers, right? I always have people who reach out and are like, what should I do? What should I price? What should I? Well, you need to find out, what problem you solve for people. And whenever it comes to pricing, I'm always a huge fan. I mean, I know Scott is as well, is we have to figure out our hourly rate, right? How much our billable hourly rate is, which, we have a calculator that we go through with our peeps. But that's the foundation. And then we work from there, right? Based on our availability and what we're able to offer and our experience. Now, there are many challenges, obviously, in this phase, that are going to get thrown at you. And I always tell people, if you initially, when you're starting this business, take the time to sit down and really identify, right, what the vision is you have of your business, right? You don't need to know everything, right? I know niching and, choosing an avatar and getting so specific can be very hard when you haven't worked with anyone, right? Sometimes that kind of unfolds the more you work with people. But you need to know what your big goal is, right? You need to know what the vision is of your business. Okay. So that is really like your North Star. So every time when things get all hairy and all out of the place and, all over, you at least know what your original mission was. I keep thinking back, I've actually told a lot of people about this lately is, when I first started my first local business, which was a house cleaning company. every single time things got rocky or I lost focus or I wanted to do something else, I kept going back to the vision, right? I had named my company actually Work Life Balance House Cleaning because I started this business to not only help myself, but help my team and help others, achieve that and have, a great work life balance. And so I would always go back to that. So I highly recommend, again, this is so incredibly important that you focus on staying, in your lane, right? Stay focused. Say no to the opportunities that do not fall in line with the vision that you have for your business. Okay. I remember, Scott, you and I, when we first started going and people were excited and wanted to, hey, you should help me with this, or we should do this, or we should collaborate. It was like we were on this train, and every time we started moving forward, something knocked us off track a little bit when we said yes to things. And so we finally came to the conclusion is, we have got to say no, and we've got to stay focused, and we've got to keep driving this train forward. So again, very exciting phase, the startup stage, but you got to stay focused to push yourself forward. Now, again, right, there's three things that are happening, right? You're launching your business, you're forming your foundations, and you're staying focused. Your big milestone goals in this startup phase is to grow your email list. Okay. And I want to give you guys some tangible numbers. So let's say from 500 to 1,000 subscribers. You want to get consistent subscribers daily. So you got to make sure your foundations are in place so that you're able to continually grow that. And you want to now also create kind of like a tripwire or an offer where you can start to get people spending money, right? So those are three really good goals that you can start to build the more and more you work with people and as you start to grow your business. All right. Are we ready for the next stage?
Let's jump into phase two.
All right, phase two. So phase two is what we call the growth stage. Okay, so the growth stage is a super exciting time, right? At this point, you guys have earned your first 1,000 in revenue. You've kind of learned some of the back end stuff, which, look, I didn't really elaborate on it enough, but if you are so overwhelmed by the tech and learning things and just like, oh my gosh, just make sure you find someone who has already done this before you, right? In fact, that's a lot of our clients we work with. We kind of pave the path and we teach people how to do that. Find someone who has gone before you that you can partner with and obviously can give you some good advice on the basic things that you need in your business. But also, know that once you learn these things, it's going to be rinse and repeat from there. And again, spending that time and actually blocking out time to learn those things in your business is going to be so valuable later. Okay. So anyway, so in the growth stage, right, we got our first 1,000, we're kind of moving on. You're still, right, the sole owner, operator, all the things. Okay. This doesn't change. One of the biggest challenges though, that I encounter and I see with a lot of entrepreneurs is learning how to sell and learning how to launch products and services effectively, right? We've spent all this time in this startup stage on all the foundational stuff, right? We've been behind the scenes kind of, right? Like building and tinkering and, maybe starting to put ourselves out a little bit. But now this huge shift has to happen where we actually have to shout from the rooftops that we are open for business and tell people what it is that we do. And we've actually got to sell a little bit. So Scott, I would love to hear your thoughts on people that you've worked with and kind of like seeing that kink in the hose, because when people cannot effectively transition and really learn the skill set, right, to actually jump on the phone and start having those calls and closing those scales or sales, it's a little bump in the road.
Well, I think people look to outsource certain aspects of their business too quickly. And you hear this term social seller a lot in the entrepreneurial world, which means you're hiring other people to sell your stuff for you. Now, I know not everybody likes sales. I love sales. And it's not so much the monetary transaction that I love. I love connecting with people. I love hearing what they're struggling with, what they need help with. And if something that Nancy and I provide can fill the hole or gap, it becomes an easier transition from taking that conversation from a connect call to a, hey, I think what we actually have to offer could be of significant value to you in your business, and it could help you. So then it starts to feel less salesy and more like I'm doing something great for this person because they have voiced to me what it is that they're struggling with, their pain points, their bottlenecks, and here's a solution for that. So there's something that Nancy and I always talk about called PSR, problem, solution, result, right? So people state the problem, you provide the solution, and then you showcase the result. So no matter what phase you're in, whether it's phase 1, 2, or 3, if you think that you are going to have to you're going to fully remove yourself from the equation, meaning, if someone's going to be buying something, and this is a trigger for Nancy and myself, because we've seen people post stuff in groups that we've been in where people have said, oh, just closed, $80,000 in revenue to my business on a $20,000 package without having all through the DMs. Meaning the person was saying that they didn't get on the phone and they closed 4 people through direct messaging on Facebook or Instagram, and that person purchased a $20,000 program. I'm sorry. I don't care how much money someone does or does not have. When you're looking to make any investment, especially something in the 5 figures, you better believe you should be getting on the call with the person who is providing that course or that program before you make an educated decision whether to pull the trigger or not. Because there's a lot of devious and misleading things out there.
Yeah.
But the idea, going back to the original part of what we wanted to talk about in phase 2, is that you get great at sales when you get great at asking questions. And I think when you are talking too much about what you're doing and what your program is without really engaging that person first and finding out about them, what they're struggling with, the saying goes, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? You have to ask more and talk less. And the only reason why people consider me great at sales is because I'm great at conversing. I've had thousands and thousands of conversations at this point. So when you can get your conversation repetitions in, anything that you do in a repetitive manner, you're going to get better at it. And then it feels more comfortable. Now, I will say this. In any business that you're growing and scaling, no matter what phase you're in, when you're uncomfortable is you're comfortable, you're doing something right. And you're always stretching, you're always looking to launch a new aspect of a strategy that you have, different sales tactics. And that's why Nancy and I lean so heavily on LinkedIn, because it is the #1 place for lead generation, but also client acquisition. And because it's a networking platform, guess what? People are going to be open to hopping on a call or a Zoom and learning about one another. Now, I will say this: anyone that goes into this phase of entrepreneurship where you think every single person is going to buy what you have to offer, you're very, very mistaken.
Absolutely.
What I like the 80-20 rule. 80% of the calls that you have will lead nowhere. 20% of the calls will lead somewhere.
Yep.
So if you're having, say, 5 calls a week, 20 calls a month. So again, 16 of those calls go absolutely nowhere. 4 of those calls go somewhere. And that could be acquiring a client, enrolling someone in your program, or establishing a power partner. So just imagine if you were having 4 qualified either sales or ally calls every single month, the law of numbers are then in your favor. Now, Nancy jokes with me all the time that whenever we're launching our group mastermind program, most people that end up getting on the phone with me end up joining our program. And it's not because I'm coaxing them into making a decision. We have a very open, pre-qualified conversation where I'm really interviewing them hard about what their specific goals are. And then I show them what we provide and what we offer and how it either is or is not a good. And I've turned people away where I've said, listen, the phase that you are in your business, it's not going to be the best monetary investment, but you need some things in place. And here's maybe another place where you can start in the meantime. And then when you have these things in place. So as you're listening to this, you as the business owner, it's you have to do your due diligence not to accept every single person into your program, into your course, into your coaching, because the best form of business growth is referrals. So when you really interview people the right way and you're having these sales calls and these discussions, and you bring the right people into your business sphere where they're going to do the work, they're going to get the result, you're going to get the referrals. So what you have to do in this phase is, instead of listening to those people that say, oh, just have a sales team do it for you, just have them, and I love this whole notion. I've been getting these messages on LinkedIn all the time called appointment setters. How would it feel if our team came in and, booked appointments for you? Listen, if you can't do those specific things for your business, in my humble and honest opinion, you shouldn't be in business. It is your job to network, to connect, to build relationship, to build the know, like, and trust with people. So even though in phase 2, you're looking to ramp up with sales acquisition and client acquisition, that phase is never going to stop. And I've seen this happen all too often, that people get to a certain level in their business and they peel themselves away from it too quickly. And they bring in this sales team, this appointment setting team, and it loses this authentic feel that it once had, because people want to be connected to you. If you ever get to a point in your business where you don't want to get on the phone with someone who wants to invest in you and your business, like, there's something wrong. I don't care how much money you are or are not making. Nancy and I still get excited every single time someone wants to talk to us about joining one of our programs. And we are so happy, so honored, so grateful to be the one enrolling them into our program. And I can't tell you how many times we have heard from people where they have booked calls on our calendar. And this happens so often. People are shocked that it's actually us showing up for the call. They're like, oh, I thought someone from your team would show up for this. And I'm like, you booked a call on my calendar. Why would someone from my team show up if you're looking to talk to me about joining our program? So I just wanted to kind of get that out there. So you got to keep yourself in the trenches, so to speak, of connecting with people, shaking hands, kissing babies, all those things that you need to do to network online to really build that know, like, and trust, because that's what people typically invest in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, like Scott hit the nail on the head. Like, we've got to be good at actually having conversations with people, right? Jumping on a call. And like, the thing is I think a lot of people get so scared of these calls that, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? How am I going to whatever? Like, the way that Scott teaches people to get on sales calls, it's listening, right? You start by just listening, right? Let the other person share a little bit about themselves, and it's just a normal conversation. It does not have to be rocket science. Okay. We want to connect with people and make authentic, real connections. So anyway, so a couple little figures and kind of milestones again with the growth stage is, while you're in this stage, okay, and a lot of times it is a longer stage because, right, we've kind of worked on some of the foundations, but as we're growing and we're kind of moving and grooving in our business, the goal is that you want to work with enough clients. And this is specifically more so with people who do one-on-one, we're talking coaches, consultants, things like that. This is the stage where, as you're working more and more with people, certain things are also going to unfold for you. So some things that, for example, Scott, okay, so whenever he first started his LinkedIn coaching, right, Scott, I would listen, right, we were just started to date, and I would listen to all his phone conversations, and I'm like, dude, you're having the same conversation with every client. Okay. And it was all, for business coaching, and he was teaching people how to use LinkedIn. And I'm like, man, you should just turn this into a course. Right. So at that point, if you find yourself, right, you've kind of at this point narrowed it down, the people that you want to work with, you have clients that you enjoy, and, you've done some one-on-one. At this stage, you're earning your first 1,000, maybe it's between 1,000 to, 5,000 in revenue. At this point, you can look to create and launch a signature course, maybe even a group like hybrid program. you really have to, again, focus on getting over the resistance and learn how to sell effectively in your business. Okay. And remember, I said you, right? So again, just like Scott said, nobody cares about your business as much as you do. So if you think you're going to hire a social seller or someone who's going to jump right in and go, okay, yep, and I don't care even if they work off commission. The thing is you have to do it first, right? You've got to pave the path. And then at this point, your other goals, right, that you're working towards is earning a full-time income. Okay. You've got to get yourself into a routine and you've got to have the systems in place where you are generating leads consistently. Okay. So earning a full-time income, you're expanding your revenue streams and you're going to start selling products, right? Which is your signature course. You might even have a mini course, that people can obviously make that first investment. We want to look to actually putting a sales funnel in place, right? So having the website, having the email sequence, being able to collect emails, that should be something, right? That's a pivotal, milestone in your business. And now at the end of kind of the growth phase, or kind of like in the middle there, actually middle to the end, you're going to be looking to hire a little bit of help, right? That's going to be a VA, someone to take some of the basic day-to-day stuff off your plate so that you can sell, right? And continue to do some of the money-making activities in your business. All right. Are we ready for the next stage?
Yeah, let's jump to the final phase, which is phase 3.
All right. So the final stage, okay, is the scale stage, right? The scaling stage. That's a critical, right, part in, the business. And, it happens whenever a business experiences significant growth and expansion. At this point, right, whenever you're earning consistent income, you could be making anywhere between $5,000 to $30,000. Okay. This often, as the phases grow with coaching, you've already got a signature course. You've got your sales funnel set up. You might even start a membership site, right? A lot of people think that's the first thing they have to start, but usually it comes down the line because you've got a lot of things that you're skilled at and cool things that you can teach, and you've grown your audience, right? So you can do membership sites, you can do mastermind groups, speaking engagements, agency, right? Like a lot of people start agencies, things like that. Now, the big challenge that a lot of entrepreneurs face at the scale stage, the number one thing is balancing business expenses with the need to continue to grow the business. Because what happens is right, we're moving this bus along and we're like, yes, yes, yes. Okay, money is starting to flow. And what happens is we need to start actually investing some of that money now back into the business so that we can grow to the next level. Okay. And this is what hangs people up a lot because they're like, oh, my margins are so amazing, but really at this phase, the revenue streams have expanded. You have some expenses, but you really want to make the right investments to keep that business going forward. Okay. So you must focus on streamlining and simplifying processes. You got to make sure, again, if you do hire a team, you have to make sure that on the other side of it, right, you're continuing to do the sales process, you're continuing to, sell things and outsource, the correct things that are going to really help you now step back and become more of the CEO in your business. Okay. Because that's like the final phase, right? Where you're kind of delegating more. You've got some team members that are under you. Now, I love it. We're actually reading the book, Start Something That Matters by Blake Mykowski. I think I said that right. Who's the owner and the CEO of Tom's. And he was talking about how you have to keep that mindset as you grow of staying right? Like streamlined. Because he said a lot of times people start investing crazy money and they go, oh, we're making so much money now. I'm going to like put all of that back into, growing. So it is such a challenge for people sometimes to actually step back and go, how much money should I be spending on this? And is this too much? Because we saw it. Scott and I were part of a program where we saw so many people skyrocket, build their business, get to a certain point, and then literally spend almost every penny they were bringing in on hiring a whole big team, and then only months later to have to fire that team because they weren't bringing in enough money to sustain it, right? So we have to make smart decisions. We have to obviously know how to balance, right, the expenses with what we're bringing in. Of course, we're at the point we need some help, but let's make sure that we're hiring help for the right things. And let's make sure that we still are driving that train and that bus forward with our big vision. And we're making sure that the business as a whole is growing forward, right? You shouldn't be tired of your business. You shouldn't be sitting back at this point. You want to keep, again, continually growing it in that scale stage.
Yeah. And just to let everyone know, full transparency, Nancy and I, we've had team members or a team for the last 4 years in some capacity, but it wasn't until the beginning of 2023 where we finally brought on 2 full-time people. And there were, and because, people might say, well, why did, you guys were making money, why did you wait so long? Well, we had to switch our business model of how we were taking in our revenue. So there's 2 types of revenue in a business, not to go off, but this is going to make sense. There is reoccurring revenue, and then there's active revenue. So active revenue is if you have people paying in full for your group coaching program, or they're paying in full for a course or a program that you have, right? It's one payment in, and you don't see the money ever again. And we know as quickly as that money comes in, just as quickly it goes out. Now, the reoccurring money model is having things set up on a monthly pay schedule. So if someone is joining a 6-month program that you have, or they're going to coach with you for 7 months, or they're joining a year-long program, it's monthly payments. And I used to have one, I still have one-on-one consulting, but I only take on maybe a person a month at this point. That's it.
Yep.
And the way that I broke it down was there is no pay in full option anymore. You have to pay 7 payments of XYZ once a month. So it creates a steady income flow. So it took Nancy and I about 1.5 years to switch our pay model over from pay in full, which is active income, to reoccurring revenue. Now we actually can project every single month, reoccurring wise, how much money is coming in. So we actually have a budget of what we can afford to bring on as far as team wise. And that led us to bringing on a full-time copywriter and a full-time project manager, because we needed someone to measure our KPIs. We needed someone to have that 10,000-foot view to say, this is what's working, this is what's not working. But also having a full-time copywriter, if we say, hey, we have a workshop, can you drum up some new engagement emails? Or we want to re-engage our list. So it's just one of those things where it really allows us to grow and scale the way that we want. But it took us a number of years to get here. And that's to Nancy's point. We don't want people making the mistakes that we saw so many people make, where they were running at like a 20% revenue, where they were paying out 80% and they were only taking in 20%. Nancy and I teach people how to run a small and mighty business. So we run anywhere between 65 to 75% profit margin. Like, that's incredible. And that's the thing. That's what you want, that small and mighty business. So again, no matter what phase you're in, whether it's the startup phase, the growth phase, or the scaling phase, you have to pay attention to every aspect of your business. And here's the other thing. Every year, Nancy and I go back to phase 1, meaning we reassess everything. We reassess our niche. We reassess our business avatar. We reassess our business goals. So just so everyone knows that's listening to this, just because things are moving in the right direction and you feel as if it's a well-oiled machine, you don't want to take your hands completely off of what you're doing. You should go back and reevaluate at the beginning or the end of the next year, just as if you were starting from ground zero again, because there are some things that may not be working that you want to improve upon. And that's the thing. Nancy and I always look for bottlenecks in our business. Yeah. We always look for things that are working well, and we continue to throw gasoline on those. And then we also look for things that aren't working well, and what can we do to improve them? So again, the point of today's podcast episode is to help give all of you advice, whether you have an idea that you want to put out into the world. So you're pre-phase 1, or maybe you're in phase 1 right now and you're not really sure what to do. Or maybe you're in phase 2 and you want to create that stable income that's coming in. Or maybe you're in phase 3 and you're really ready to grow and scale, but you're not really sure what should be outsourced. When do I bring a team member on? What kind of team member do I need to bring on?
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted to help clarify with all of you guys today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, the one thing that we always set out to do is, we know, and we've been tossed around in the dryer of, entrepreneurship. And we've gone through, our bumps and bruises. We've made, great hiring decisions. We've made terrible hiring decisions. We've lost a lot of money. We've made a lot of money, so, we've been through a lot. And I think it's just important again, because, there's only so many things you can type into like Google, and there's only so many things that you can, type into chat GPT and get answers for, but there are so many missing pieces that I think a lot of people aren't talking about, whenever it comes to behind the scenes of entrepreneurship. And that's what we really set out to do, even in the courses that we've created and the programs that we put together, with our foundations program, which we're actually launching this year officially, right? We kind of did a beta last year. And then, some of the other things that we're putting in place, because these are the things that we always wish that we had. And we just feel like a lot of people are missing some of this tangible, really realness whenever it comes to growing your business. So definitely want you guys to check out, a couple things that we have coming around the corner. We actually have a brand new website that we created. It is for our workshops. So you can find it. We're going to put it in the description of this podcast, but it's thetimeToGrow.com/workshops. So Scott and I do workshops almost every month, right? We focus on different things that are going on with our audience. Sometimes we'll switch it up a little bit with what we had originally planned. And coming down the pike, we've got one that we're going to be doing around, sales and lead gen. We've got one about getting organized in your business. So a lot of the foundational kind of systems that we're talking about. We obviously do our amateur to expert on LinkedIn. We'll probably do that again this year. And then we've also got a really cool content creation one. So if you guys want to sign up, you want to be notified for when those workshops are, we would love you to be a part of it. We always have a great time. I'm telling you what, the feedback that we have received from all of these workshops has just been wonderful. We pour a lot of love and we have a lot of fun during those workshops. So we definitely want you guys to be a part of it and join us. So again, you can check out on that website and you can sign up to receive notifications to get little reminders when we are coming up with our next workshop.
Yep. So just as Nancy said, it's thetimeToGrow.com/workshops. And there's also a feedback form on there because we always want to hear from all of you. So if there is a workshop that you would like to see us put on or create that would benefit all of you, we are always open to suggestions. We are always looking to help people in some way, shape, or form. So again, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. As always, please like, love, support our podcast, subscribe, leave us a rating and review, and we look forward to talking to you next time. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.